Krishna, dear devotees, and welcome to today's session. How are you doing? I pray that all is well with you and your families at this time. I'm so delighted to get so many wonderful responses to this session as we started this new segment on Because I Care, to know that I can actually make a difference and serve the devotees at this difficult time. So it's so heartwarming to see the responses from everyone who actually appreciated this effort as a service, as an offering to all the Vaishnavas. And I think it's very important that if we have a platform of stability, then we can naturally make proper judgments, especially if it's a spiritual platform. We can make spiritual judgments of what's going on and not be influenced by the external environment to the point that we are completely traumatic. We're going through huge phases of fear and we don't know what to do and how to understand what's going on. Well, let's see what's happening. So we're starting our lessons from the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where surprisingly Arjuna had been through the same thing. Arjuna had been through the situation. His situation was different because he's a warrior, he's a soldier. So the details are different, but the principle is the same. And that is my point with Bhagavad Gita, that Bhagavad Gita is not a religious text. It's a manual to life, and we're going to see that today. So we're catching it in one of another favorite verse. Whenever my mind gives me trouble, then I just shout out this verse. Boom! It's one of the verses that I just use to pacify and tone my mind when it's giving us trouble. And as we see, the actual problem of everything is that we are forgetting Krishna. The mind is the problem. The mind is the problem. So all that we're doing in spiritual life is training the mind. So let's see what Krishna has told Arjuna here. So we catch it in the second chapter, verse number 2. So it's 2.2. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutasva Kashmalam Idam Vishame Samopastitam Anarya Justam Asvargyam Akritikaram Arjuna. So Krishna really gives Arjuna the sauce. So we can see Arjuna is having a nervous breakdown. He's not able to make a decision of what to do and is not able to understand what he's supposed to do as a warrior. What is his duty? So the principle is he has forgotten his connection with Krishna. Although Krishna is sitting right there on the chariot, he's forgotten who he's sitting there with. So Krishna doesn't play around with him. When it comes to dealing with the mind, Krishna doesn't play around. So let's see what Krishna does here. So translation, the Supreme Personality of God had said, "My dear Arjuna." So this line alone is so significant. My dear Arjuna. So he's saying, you are dear to me, Arjun, but your mind now needs tuning. Your mind needs to be assessed. Your mind needs to be trained. Therefore, what I'm going to tell you now is going to hurt, but I'm not hurting you. I'm trying to train your mind. So it's not that Krishna is insensitive to what's happening to Arjuna. He's saying, I'm trying to teach you something to train your mind. So therefore he starts by saying, my dear Arjuna, to say, don't misunderstand what I'm saying to you. Yesterday's class, we were talking about the heart of the sadhu. Prabhupada was very strong yesterday, where he was saying that don't think that everybody is practicing Krishna consciousness is a devotee. Was very strong, wasn't it? So we see why he's saying that. Where is that coming from? It's coming from a very deep place of love. A very deep place of love and care for the devotees. So this is what Krishna is doing here also. He's saying, Arjuna, you are dear to me, but I have to give you something. As His Holiness Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj says, he has to give him a what happened. But it's not a what happened for the body, it's a what happened for the mind. So this is what Arjuna got. He got one of those what happens, those Brahmastras. But it was for the mind. So let's see what Krishna says here. So immediately Krishna says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, how have these impurities come upon you? They are not at all befitting a man who knows the value of life. You see, he says, Arjuna, why I'm being hard on you, why I'm chastising you, is because you are acting like you don't know what is the process of life. Do you have no knowledge? What's happened to you? You've forgotten everything you've learned? Why is this behavior coming about? It's because, like we saying yesterday, you're becoming bewildered because where are you taking shelter? This is what's happening. You are taking shelter in that atheistic views. Therefore, you're forgetting that I'm right here with you. I'm right here with you, and you know how embarrassing that is? I'm right here with you on the chariot, and you've forgotten your own culture. You've forgotten who is sitting here with you, and you're feeling alone and isolated. This means you are taking shelter of your mind. This means that your mind is getting the better of you. Why have you forgotten? There's a culture that teaches you how to spiritualize your mind. Let's see what he says. So see what Krishna says here. For one, a man who knows the value of life. So how much do you know about the value of life, the process of life? Have you studied the process of life? Do you know that if there is birth, there is going to be death? Do you know that there is going to be dukkhalayam ashashvatam? There is going to be suffering in this world? How much of that have you realized? Because that is where the problem is. It's not in your practice. You're doing all the spiritual activity, but you haven't assimilated this to the level of realization. You haven't realized. That's why this pandemic at the moment is giving people such deep realizations about spiritual life, because it's not giving them a chance to move this way or that way. It's just grabbed them to the reality of the life that's happening out there. And it's saying, if you are not rooted, if you are not taking shelter of a higher level of existence, which is the spiritual life, spiritual realization, you are not going to handle this. So immediately Krishna takes the stance of saying, don't feel alone, Arjun. Why are you feeling alone? It's only your mind that's taking you away. I'm sitting here with you, right here with you on the chariot. And that is why that beautiful narrative comes in the Mahabharata of Yudhishthira and the Yaksha. That everyone, that conversation went, that everyone is dying. You know what's the amazing thing about life? Here again, it's the process of life that is being studied and understood. That everyone is dying around you and you feel it's not going to happen to me. Well, look at what the pandemic is doing. It's giving you a reality check. And it's really putting focus on where is your prerogatives. Where is your strengths in life? Where is your weaknesses? What is it that you're going to need to get out of this? Where are you putting your energy? You know, energy is a finite resource. So if you're going to keep on nourishing it with negativity, and that's what's out there, that's what people are talking about, that's what the media is talking about, that's what the news is telling you. You keep on nourishing the negativity, what are you going to be cultivating? Simply negativity. So that's why Krishna is chastising Arjuna. Kutasva kashmalam idam vishame samupastitam anarya justam. This is not the behavior of an Aryan, an Aryan. This is unaryan, somebody who is not an Aryan, a civilized man. And we are civilians of the spiritual world. We're not just civilians of this planet. We are civilians of the spiritual world. That has a separate culture. What is that culture? Aryan. That culture is the Aryan culture, which is the foundation of it is spirituality. It's built on spirituality. Therefore, it immediately teaches you how to understand your mind and how to understand the processes of life. So we can see Krishna is not falling for the self-pity that Arjuna is saying, oh Krishna, please have pity on me. See, my skin is burning. I cannot hold my bow. I'm putting my bow down. Krishna is saying, sorry, Arjuna, I'm not having any of that. This is not proper behavior. You are not using your spiritual strength. You are falling victim to your mind. Understand this and make the change. So Krishna is not falling for the self-pity tantrum that Arjuna is throwing here. So he's not being insensitive, but he's saying, why have you forgotten that I'm here with you on this chariot? You've forgotten me. That's why you're suffering like this. You've forgotten me. That's why you're taking shelter of the mind. So big lesson as devotees. We either take shelter of Krishna or we take shelter of our mind. What's your choice, devotees? What's your choice? Think wisely, because the response and the reaction is very different in those both situations. Let's see what it goes on to say. They lead not to higher planets but to infamy. So Krishna at the end of the translation is saying here, it's relating to Arjuna in his circumstance, because as a Kshatriya he goes to higher planets. So it's saying this doesn't behooves you. He's saying transcend. Indirectly he's saying, as a process of life, transcend your circumstances. Learn the art of transcending your circumstances. Because we all wish, right? We all wish that the world will change for us. And somehow we have this hope, this ignorant hope in the heart that the world is going to change for us. They're really going to see what a good person I am. Nobody out there cares. That's the stark reality, devotees. Nobody out there cares who you are, what you are. They're all self-centered, just like you are right now, following your mind. But the Aryan culture is not like that. Until we have that culture, then we can care for others. That is the basis of that culture, spirituality and spiritual realization. So he's saying, if you want to transcend your circumstance, take shelter of me, Arjuna. Don't take shelter of your mind. You're listening to your mind and see where you've gotten yourself now. Let's see what Prabhupada puts in the purport. So a major part of the purport, Prabhupada speaks about the 3 levels of realization. But in our theme at the moment of COVID-19, we've extracted from the bottom part of the purport where it starts. In the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna's lamentation for his kinsman is certainly unbecoming. Do you see why Krishna is being so hard? He's not being hard because he's hard-hearted. He's saying, in my presence you're behaving like this. We know we have Krishna. Abhinatvam nami namino. Abhinatvam. Krishna is non-different from his holy name. That's for Prabhupada. Whenever he would have difficulties in Bombay with Mr. Nair, whenever he would have difficulties, he'd just take his bead bag and start chanting. Because Abhinatvam, non-different. Nam, the name, Namino, the possessor of the name. Abhinatvam nami namino. The name and the possessor of the name are non-different. Therefore, devotees are always taking shelter there. Yesterday we were hearing how devotees, Daiving Prakriti Ashrita. The devotees take shelter of the divine energy, which is Radharani. They don't take shelter of this Bhautika Prakriti, this external energy. Daiving Prakriti. Mahatmanastu Mam Partha, Daiving Prakriti Ashrita. That those who are Mahatmas, great souls, they learn the art of taking shelter of the divine energy. So Krishna is not being hard-hearted here. He's saying, Arjuna, why have you forgotten that I'm on this chariot with you? Your mind has only made you to believe that. I'm here with you. Why do you feel alone? Why do you feel like you have to go through all this thing alone? This is your mind that has done it to you. Stop it. Stop this. Very strong, isn't it? Very strong words by Krishna. Let's see what Prabhupada says here. So let's start that line again in the purport. In the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Arjuna's lamentation for his kinsman is certainly unbecoming. And therefore, Krishna expressed his surprise with the word Kutashva, wherefrom such impurities were never expected from a person belonging to the civilized class of men known as Aryans. So we discussed this, that the Aryan culture is based not a group of people, it's not based on the body, it's based on civilization, based on self-realization, spirituality. Therefore, they can understand and assess. No other form of knowledge is going to help you cope with the COVID disease out there, because everything else is material. You want to use material knowledge to solve material problems? Is that what you want to do? That's only the mind tells you that. Krishna is saying, I'm right here on the chariot, Arjun. Why have you forgotten me, that I'm here to help you? I'm part of the equation. I'm right here. You're chanting my name every day. You're taking darshan every day. You're offering me every day. But when it comes to the practical aspect of life, you forget me. You're hurting me by doing that. And this is just your mind. This is just your mind. This is why Prabhupada starts this purport in this way. Let's see what he says further. The word Aryan is applicable to persons who know the value of life. What is the value of life? It's the process of life. Have you studied the process of life? Have you understood how it works? Well, that's what Bhagavad Gita is teaching. That's the manual to teach you how to live in all these difficult. That's why it's based on a battlefield. Where is there more trauma than on a battlefield? That's why it's based there. And right now, with the COVID going on, we have the reality test, the real test to see where we at. Not all the decoration, not all the slokas, not all the shows and all the things we did when Guru Maharaj came. We came and did big puja and glory. Everybody saw us in our silk outfit. Guru Maharaj gone, we also gone. Not that kind of service. Now when the test comes, what have you put in the heart? How much of Krishna consciousness have you put in the heart? That is being tested now. That will give you resilience. That will give you the rock that you want to stand on. That is the strength. That is the strength that you're going to build this new person on. Devotees, the world is not going to be the same again. The normal, we're going to have a new normal now. After this pandemic, the world is going to be different. So you better learn how to change. Otherwise, the mind is just going to pull you away into all the events and circumstances that are happening around you. Be careful. The mind is very powerful. Very, very powerful. Very powerful. Don't be swayed by your mind. So Krishna goes on to, Prabhupada says in the purport here, and have civilization based on spiritual realization. Then towards the bottom part of the purport, the last part, he says here, such deviation from duty does not help one in the progress of spiritual life. He says you've deviated. You haven't deviated, you haven't broken the principles, you haven't done anything wrong in that way, but your deviation is where you're taking shelter. Daivim Prakriti Ashrita. Devotees take shelter there. You are taking shelter of your mind. That's why it's affecting you so much. That's a deviation. So Prabhupada is saying we have deviated from what is our duty. Our duty is to always remember Krishna. You remember yesterday's purport. Prabhupada is saying that is our only business. Our only business. Krishna consciousness is our only business. If that is the foundation, everything else can be handled. If that is being questioned, then that means we're taking shelter of the mind. Be careful of this. Please be careful of this. Prabhupada goes on to say, nor does it even give one the opportunity to become famous in this world. That is for Arjuna, because a Kshatriya's fame is something that drives him. He wants to become famous in this world. Therefore, he becomes the best. So in his circumstances, fame is an impetus. So Krishna is even using that. So Prabhupada concludes, Lord Krishna did not approve of the so-called compassion of Arjuna for his kinsman. Why? Because this is, if you look at that, this what is going on, Arjuna is simply showing self-pity. He's simply showing self-pity. I'm in such a situation. If you understand the process of life, that everything has a process, go through that process, taking shelter of Krishna. That's why Prabhupada started this purport so powerfully. Why have you forgotten my presence here, Arjuna? You've forgotten me. That's why you're suffering. So as devotees, we don't want to ever forget Krishna. This is why the golden rule is always remember Krishna. Never forget him. Always remember, not sometimes or only when you're doing your pujas. What is the value of Krishna consciousness if it's only during puja time, during japa time, during darshan time? That means it doesn't work in the outside world. Why is it not working? Because you haven't learned to come to that level of realization yet. You haven't learned to assess yourself at that depth where you need to tune your mind spiritually as a lifestyle, not just as for the moment, as a lifestyle. Make lifestyle changes by practicing spiritual life. What a powerful verse, isn't it? What a powerful message is being shared here today. So devotees, I hope you're inspired by that. Please be strong. I'm so grateful for all those who sent me beautiful messages appreciating what we're trying to do. And my offer is out there. I'm sending after this my WhatsApp number and my email address, which is a new email. It's called becauseicare002@gmail.com, and my WhatsApp 081-258-4275. Please write to me if I can help you in any way. Please be strong and be confident. Remember Krishna. See you tomorrow. Hare Krishna.